What will it be? Uni, college, apprenticeships, going out to work or starting your own business? What are the pros and cons for each? You ask the questions and we'll give you the real answers. This is the a guide to your future. Davey B.
Hello Kent, you sexy lot. This is Davey B. It's the fridge for a Thursday night. This show is all about your options after you leave school or college. What's next? Well, all week we're looking at the available routes for you and answering your questions, and once and for all putting to bed those myths, separating the fact from fiction basically. Tonight we're talking about two options: starting your own business and going to school or college. Monday night we covered unis, degrees and higher education. Tuesday we covered apprenticeships, and last night we covered further education basically. If you missed those shows, here are the highlights from the last 3 nights.
Monday night on the fridge.
What's the biggest question to do with money in universities that you get asked?
Well, the biggest question for me is the fact from
Yeah.
2012 September. So the young people who are applying for university now are going to be faced with these fees that are going to go up. £9,000. It's going through Parliament, hasn't even been passed by Parliament yet. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of changes and so on. To now saying, well, perhaps you won't charge £9,000. They're going backwards. They're saying perhaps we will only charge 7.5, maybe 6. If you're going to go to university, you're going to go to something like, for example, law, and then become a high-earning solicitor or barrister afterwards. Why should the taxpayer have to fund that when you're going to be earning so much at the end of it? The other point would be, well, society needs to educate its people so that it's the good of the whole society. We're getting into a very hypothetical debate.
Tuesday night on the fridge.
Traditionally, apprenticeships years and years ago were more around the construction industries, pursue the university route or weren't able to, but that's completely changed now.
Why isn't everybody doing it? Surely it's the way forward. There must be some negatives. Carla, that's a very good question. What do you think?
It is a good question. I think apprenticeships are becoming more popular out there. Is that you can't get into every single job or career with an apprenticeship. As I said earlier, you do tend to need to go to university for certain. Also, it's about getting employers on board as well. Some areas of careers are quite limited in what apprenticeships are available, and we really need employers to take on young people, to be taking on more young apprentices. So although there are apprenticeships out there, in certain areas there's quite a few, in some areas there aren't that many. Depends on the apprenticeship, but sometimes you do need to have certain qualifications.
Yeah.
So it is about looking at that and doing all your research, really. Having said that, if you haven't got the qualifications to build those up and then progress.
The fridge.
What I would say is that sixth form is definitely, you know, you will have more responsibility for your own learning, more responsibility for working on time, that kind of thing, making things happen. But equally, that is the case at college also.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to be moving on to a new environment, new subjects. So you know, you've got to get that right. You've got to make sure you're ready to take responsibility and be ready for that. Use your connections advisor in your school. Use your friends. Use your family. They will all have experiences as well. So ask questions. Find out as much as you possibly can.
Great. Okay.
You know, if you're going to go and buy a mobile phone, for example, you wouldn't just go and buy one. You'd do the research. You'd look it up and find out about it. You can do, I think, as Malcolm said on Monday, you can do degree courses at your local college.
Yeah.
Okay. There will still be fees involved in that because they're higher education courses. What you might find is that the college fees are going to be less university fees.
Right.
So it is worth finding out about that.
Last night on the fridge.
So in this first hour then, we're going to be talking about starting your own business. If you're thinking about leaving school or maybe you're leaving college, maybe that's an idea for you. You've got some ideas bubbling around in your head. Expert very soon, Paul Barron from Kemp Foundation. He's an expert on that. We'll be talking about that very soon. If you've got any questions for him, get them in right now. You can text us 87474. Start your message with the word extra, then a space, and then your question, and tell us who you are and where you're from. You can join us facebook.com/kmfmextra, or you can tweet. It's at kmfmextra. There are loads of ways of getting in touch. If you do have a question for Paul, get in touch right now. By the way, I've just been handed this. I've got to say hello to Rex and Jack. Thank you so much for listening. Hello, guys. Got Flo Rida and Katie next on KMFM Extra.
The KMFM Extra.
So basically, this show is all about your options if you're leaving school or college. Monday, we covered university, degrees and higher education. Tuesday, we answered your questions on apprenticeships. Last further education, which is college and sixth form, and tonight it's that fourth option, you know, the lesser spoken about route, going straight off to work off the back of your GCSEs, or entrepreneurship and starting your own business. And with the recently published figures of unemployment, we'll explore whether that route is the right one for you or not. As with every show, we have a resident expert to answer. questions about starting up your own business. That's our resident expert tonight. It's Paul Barron from Kent Foundation. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Hi.
It's good to have you on here. Now, as with all of our experts that we've had, we ask them to justify their credentials. What makes you an expert on entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, thanks for introducing me as an expert. I'm clearly not.
Yeah, you are.
I've no business background whatsoever, but I have a background in working with young people.
Sure.
And that's the starting point for all our services that we offer. We have to start and understand the young person.
Absolutely. What questions do you get asked a lot in your job doing what you do?
We get a lot of questions asking us where people can get money from.
Yep.
And that's usually not a good question to start with,
Right.
because money's hard to come by.
Yeah. Okay. Best to answer your questions tonight, all of you that are texting in or phoning in. And while he's here, and he is the man that has questions when it comes to starting up a business. So get in touch. We're going to take a call if that's all right with you, Paul.
Yep.
This is from Coral in Whitstable, I believe.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Hi, my name's Coral from Whitstable. I have an idea for a company that I've been wanting to start for ages, but I don't have a clue where to start. Money, marketing, help, begin. Silly question, but I need some direction, please.
End of message.
Good question.
Yeah, good question, Coral. First of all, what we need to do is to talk about what your idea is, and that's clearly something you don't want to talk about live on air in case somebody wants to steal that fantastic idea you might have.
Yeah.
So what we would do initially is meet with you. Maybe one of the members of staff from the Kent Foundation, one of our workers, would come along and sit down and talk to you about all the things you've mentioned, talk about money, talking about marketing, and a whole range of help and advice that you might be interested in getting from us.
Yeah, okay. Well, while we're on that subject, said, what is a business plan? It's a very good question. We're going to be speaking about business plans a lot tonight, I'm figuring. And basically says, what would someone a business plan? What would they expect to see, and what is it?
Well, first of all, don't get hung up on a business plan. It's something that you can go to a bank and ask for a loan. They'd give you a form to fill in, and you should fill in their form in their way, answering all their questions if you want to borrow money from that particular bank.
Okay.
Each bank might have a different business plan, and that might be totally different from your plan of action, the way that you're going to achieve what you want to achieve.
Okay, but what would you expect to see in it as a generalisation?
About costs, including any costs you might have. You've also got to put in revenue costs. What's it actually going to cost you on a day-to-day basis? And what you've got to remember, when you've got all your costs going out, and it obviously depends on what... you've got to make some kind of a profit. You've got to eat. You've got to put petrol in your car if you've got a car, or you've got to pay rent for your flat, or even if it's giving your parents some money to live in their house. You've got to ensure that you've got enough money coming in that will cover everything you're going to spend. And sometimes what you're going to spend might be literally advised by how much money you've got coming in, so you might have to draw back on your plan. Right,
okay. Well, if we've got any more questions on business plans, it sounds like something that's a minefield. We're going to break it down tonight and get it all out there. Text us, 87474, that's the number. Make sure you start your message with the... Then your question for Paul tonight, who is an expert on entrepreneurship and starting your own business. He's from Kent Foundation. Facebook, it's facebook.com/kmfmextra. I'd love to hear from you via Twitter. It's at kmfmextra. You can ask your question that way as well. We'll hear from you very, very soon. This is KMFM Extra. It's the fridge. Yes.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Hi KMFM Extra, it's Ruben from Maidstone. If I want to start my own business, which I do, where can I find info about grants and help? I don't need a lot of money, but I need some funding to get going. And I hope there are people who will help me. As I here. Any website or ideas, please?
End of message.
That and many more questions going to be answered in this hour as we talk entrepreneurship and business. If you want to start up your own business straight from school, you want to start your own business, maybe you're leaving college, we have an expert here by the name of Paul Barron from Kent Foundation. Thank you for joining us, Paul. Yeah, it's good to have you here. So we're going to be taking your calls very, very soon, and including that one. If you do have a question for Paul, maybe you're thinking it's for you. You've got an idea. It's been burning around the last few years. You're thinking, do you know what? No one else is doing it quite the way I've had this idea in my head. Maybe it could make you a lot of money. Maybe it'll just be successful for you. Who knows? Questions 87474 is the number. Make sure extra at the front of your text message, then a space, then your question, and tell us who you are and where you're from. But, you know, you might want to keep your idea to yourself. You never know. Broadcasting it might be a bad idea. I don't know. But anyway, we're going to be taking some of your calls and texts very, very soon and speaking to Paul, who is an expert on business ventures. Looking forward to chatting to him some more soon. This is KMFM Extra.
The Fridge with KenChoicesForYou.com. A guide to your future.
Joined by an expert from Kent Foundation to talk about entrepreneurship and starting your own business. It's Paul Barron. Thank you for joining us, Paul.
Hi again.
Right. Texts and emails, and I'm going to read this one. Hey, KMFM Extra, the Kent Foundation.
No, in fact, we're set up as a charity. We do a lot of fundraising. We apply for all sorts of funding bids to help pay for our services. Everything that we do is free to young people.
Wow, that's fantastic. And this other one here says, hi, Davey B. Sounding my own business in computer repairs. Would I be able to get funding for this type of business? Any advice would be great. That's from Mark and Thanet.
Yeah, you've got to decide how much money you want and whether or not you do actually want money. And I think about computer repairs, but try and publicise yourself. Do you want money to buy equipment? Do you need a room? A lot of people start their businesses with no money, working out of the bedrooms, working out of a shed. And what you need to do is to ensure that you're doing the right things at the right time. Get through to the startup stage, there are a couple of organisations, and where one of them we could give you a test trading grant, which would be free. It's not a loan, it's a gift. We don't give many away, but we do to some people. But we have to make sure that we've worked through the idea with you, that it's a good idea, that it's got a good chance of working with you.
So what kind of grant would you give? Is it only for genius ideas that you think, do you know what, that's going to go places, or for things like computer repairs, which there are a lot of out there? Would you see that and actually invest in the person because actually he might make something of something? How do the grants? What's your criteria?
Yeah, the grant is to the person and not to the business. It's not anything to do with the idea, other than it has to be an idea that's going to work. We call it a test trading grant.
Okay.
And so it's for the first 3 months that young person is. And we figure that you can get by on about.
Right.
And so if you're going to run your business for, hopefully forever, or certainly for a few years, we'll give you this grant for the first 3 months, just because we know that's when cash flow is difficult.
Okay.
So, for example, you start your business, if you come back to us and then we know you can demonstrate that you're still running your business, we'll give you another £600 for your second month and the same for the third month. So it's about £2,000 over the first 3 months just to see you over until you get your cash flow sorted out.
Interesting. I can imagine after tonight and after saying that, you're going to hear to the radio right now. But if you do want to get in touch with the guys from Kent Foundation, we're going to have all the information up on facebook.com/KMFMextra at the end of the show. If you want to get in touch with these guys, plus Kent Choices for you as well, so stay listening. Got any more questions then for Paul? Then here's the text number. It's 87474. Make sure you start the text with the word extra at the front, then a space, and then your question and who you are and where you're from as well. You can tweet us tonight. It's at KMFMextra. The most popular way is join us on Facebook. Be a friend of ours. We'll friend you right back. Straight on our wall, it's KMFM Extra, facebook.com/KMFM Extra. Or, of course, you can always direct message us via that as well, facebook.com/KMFM Extra. Nero reaching out. Hello.
The Fridge, KMFM Extra.
So welcome to The Fridge. I'm Davey B. Hope you're doing okay tonight. Tonight we are joined by Paul Barron of Kent Foundation. We're also joined by Craig, Malcolm and Vanessa, our experts from Connections. We'll be chatting to them very, very soon. Now, if you're thinking of leaving school in May, maybe you're thinking about getting a job straight from school. We'll be talking to the guys from Connections about that. But maybe you're thinking about starting up your own business. Maybe you've got a really good idea. Then this show is for you. Like I say, Paul Barron of Kent Foundation is with us. Thank you for joining us again, Paul.
Pleasure.
We've got some texts, emails, we've got some questions on the phone. So let me just read this one here. Nick from Canterbury says, hi Paul, with all this talk about funding tonight, can anyone get a grant that comes to see you? How's it decided? Who does and doesn't receive a grant?
Yeah, there's no exact formula to it, and we actually give out about 10 grants. And it really depends upon you and your see if the idea is good enough, see if you've got an understanding. You've got to convince us really that you've got an understanding that the money's going to be spent in the right way, or that your business is successful rather than money being spent, because frankly we don't care where it's being spent so long as your idea is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
And you do and we'll discuss it with you. Now, it could be me, but it's quite often one of my colleagues as well.
Yeah.
And we start off with this initial meeting, and we discuss what your idea is. And within the meeting, or the first or the second meeting, you might change your idea. You might come up with some other ideas. You might refine that idea. It might be such a good idea that it's really going to fly.
Yeah.
But it's about you explaining to us that it's a good idea, and then what we think is matching your enthusiasm and determination.
You've hit the nail on the head there. It's about them convince you. Is there any good tips you can give for them to come in prepared? What tips would you give them to convince you?
Your idea's got to be thought through. And I'm not going to tell you all about a business plan, because some people will say, I know a very, very wealthy millionaire, and he says, I've never written a business plan in my life. But what he always has had is a good idea himself, that he knows it's going to work and it can work.
Sure.
So that's what we're looking for, with you having an understanding from the top to the bottom that you know how your business is going to work, that you know where the money's coming, you know who you're going to sell it to. You know that somebody's going to buy it, there's a market out there, and you've got to be fairly convincing yourself that you understand work, and then we can be there with you.
Okay, fantastic. Another question here. That's from Chelsea. Hi, Paul. Just want to ask, what is actually your role at Kent Foundation? Do you make the choices, and do you need to pay the money back on a grant?
Hi, Chelsea. Well, first of all, it's a grant. It's if we give you the money, it's there for good. And as I explained to a previous caller, it's based over a 3-month period. And if you can't convince us after the first month, if you can't demonstrate still running your business, you won't get the second part of the grant and subsequent part of the grant.
Sure.
So you don't have to give anything back. It's a gift, and it's there for you.
Okay. What's your background in business then? What's your area of expertise?
I'm the director of the Kent Foundation. My expertise is putting the organisation together and leading the staff team. An organisation we function. My background is in working with young people rather than working in business.
Yeah.
We rely very heavily on our business mentors. We recruit and train expert business mentors from business, and then we match young people, and that's where you get the main part of your advice from.
Okay, so basically tonight, if you're listening, this is the guy you need to impress. So be listening to every word he says, write it down, because if you are going to be going in to see him or one of his colleagues to get a grant, you'll need to know all of this information before going in. We're going to take a call now, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Hi kmfmextra, it's Ruben from Maidstone. If I want to start my own business, which I do, where can I find info about grants and help? I don't need a lot of money, but I need some funding to get going. And I hope there are people who will help me, as I have got a great idea. Any website or
Message.
It's a good one.
Yeah, sure. Well, you can go to our website to start with. That's www.kmffoundation.org, and you can email us through that, or you can also follow us on Twitter, and we will guarantee to at least respond to you, and hopefully, as we do with we have with all the people who've contacted us up to now, we'll arrange a meeting with you.
Yeah.
Now, at that meeting, we're going to agree together. It's about us agreeing together. Nobody's going to give you any money. What you've got to recognise is that it's a risk.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure that the risk is not all upon the burden of that risk is not on the person who's going to lend you the money, that you're going to share some of that risk. So that's why it's a partnership all the way through. There are some organisations that will give you money, and you can always go to your bank, and in some cases, particularly if it's a good idea.
Okay, fantastic. We're taking more of your calls and texts very, very soon. Text us right now. The number is 87474. Start with the word extra, then a space, and then your question for Paul tonight. If you've got a question on starting up your own business, we'd love to hear from you. You can tweet us. It's at kmfmextra, or join us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/kmfmextra. We'll take some more very soon, chatting to Paul. This is KMFM Extra. This is KMFM Extra. It's the fridge for a Thursday night.
With Davey B. KMFM Extra.
So tonight then, we're talking about you leaving school and what you're going to do next. Maybe it's starting up your own business. Maybe it's going straight to work. Right now we're talking to Paul Barron from Kent Foundation. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's good to be here.
We've had some really interesting questions and some interesting answers as well. It's good to know all about business plans and what you can do as well. We've got some more questions here. The first one, Kim in Gillingham, it's for you, Paul. It says, "Hi guys, I would love to have my own cake shop and catering business and then go on to actually experience in the catering industry. Will this affect me getting the grant even if I have a really solid business plan?"
By looking at your business plan, we discuss your business idea, and doing cakes, whether you're doing it from could be two different things. A shop is a big ask. A shop, you've got to have the capital outlay and all the equipment and everything. And lots of people start businesses in the part-time. And a small sort of lifestyle business like producing cakes or fairy cakes or whatever for friends and neighbours and building it that way is a really good way of doing it.
Yeah.
So we'd really like to discuss with you, and you can get in touch with us at any time. You can go through our Facebook or Twitter accounts, or email kmfmfoundation.org, and the first thing we do is arrange to meet with you through your idea and take it from there. But at this stage, what we would say is let's not think too much about the money. Let's think about the idea and how you're going to put it into place.
Yeah. Do you meet with everyone that gets in touch with you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Well, unless they go missing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we always get there.
Fantastic. That's good to know. Right, and another question here. This is from Ryan in Hythe. It's a good question. What type of person do you need to be to run this? Good question.
I think, Ryan, you've done the first thing to prove that you could be a successful business person by getting in touch and doing something about it. We've done a little bit of research on this, and we're always doing research at the foundation, and we're going into this in a little bit more detail right at the moment with students from Greenwich University doing a research project for us. But some of the basic things about determination and hard work.
Yeah.
And if you don't have some of those things, you might have to have a little bit of vision. You've certainly got to have resilience. You know, that what some people say, knockback ability. Along some pitfalls, there will be some really down times for you, sure. And that's when you've got to pick yourself up.
To get more advice like that, of course, they can get in touch with you. Just give us the web address again.
Yes, www.kmfmfoundation.org.
Fantastic, and we'll have all that information. Remember, if you haven't had a chance to remember, but if you've forgotten, it's okay. It's going to be on our facebook.com/ page, along with everything that we've spoken about this week. So I want to hear about any success stories you've had with regards to your grants, because I know you said earlier you've only been doing them for 3 years, but you must have some stories that...
Yeah, we've got one that's quite opportunistic, really. The guy who's just opening his second shop this week. He opened a shop last May in Ashford, selling sort of electronic goods, games, gaming, used and used articles, and he was going so well. He's opening his second shop on Saturday. He's in Ashford, and he's opening his second shop in St George's, Canterbury, this weekend.
That's fantastic. And you specifically deal with young people, am I right?
Yeah. Anybody up to the age of 30. So we're quite flexible on the age group, really. But we wouldn't give any grants to anybody over 30. We'd like to go. The primary age for this is kind of 19 to 24, but people and we're doing some research at the moment on what's the best services we can give for young people aged 15, 16 and 17, which is something that a lot of schools don't want us to do, because they want young people to pass exams and not start businesses. So we're looking at the best way of doing that at the moment. Interesting.
Give your website out of deck again.
Yeah, www.kentfoundation.org.
Paul Barron from Kent Foundation, thank you so much for joining. Really, really interesting, and obviously we'll have all the answers to those questions on facebook.com/kmfmextra on the best bits of the shows over the last few days. In the next hour, we're talking about you going straight out into the big wide world and going into jobs, employment, straight after your GCSEs. That sounds like something you might be interested in around May time. Stay listening, we'll answer all your questions very, very soon. This is KMFM Extra.
The Fridge with KenChoicesForYou.com, a guide to your future.